So the last two places I worked, we ended up dealing with people. And I don't mean like people at work, although I guess that's something too. No, in this case, we're talking about the kinds of people that our company or organization interact with, right? And so it turned out in both of the last two places, we had different levels of people that we understood and our confidence in them. And it was, who did we know? What people did we know about? And how well did we know them? And that turned out we knew them at different levels because we had different ways that we would gather information about people, and it would have different meaning. So really, this is a short talk about the complexity of knowing people and then deciding what you can do with that data, how you can act with it. And so I'm going to argue that if you are taking a customer or person-centric approach, that you have leads, you've got contacts, you've got customers, you've got prospects, and that mostly I use those terms because they have different levels of confidence in the information about those people, or that we actually know that they're real people, right? Like nobody knows you're a dog on the internet, or a bot, I guess now would be funnier. Haha. Okay, so customer identities versus lead identities. And this is really sort of where this comes back to. I was with somebody the other day and they were like, well, we know all these people. And it's like, no, we kind of know these people. So customers, what's a customer? Customer is somebody that maybe we have legal transactions with, that maybe we report data to somebody on them, or we do transactions with them in a way that some high level of trust, even a shopping site. I don't really need to know who you are, but I need to trust at some level that the credit card and the shipping address that you gave me are good enough that I won't, like lose my goods that I send out. And so, we may have sensitive data about these people. Right? So customers, we have sensitive data. We use their data for legal transactions usually, or transactions that hold some risk. And we have some full set of attributes or a full enough set of attributes, or we can derive a full set of attributes. So if you're logged in and you ship somewhere, or you had some government ID and I need to know other stuff, I might be able to use your government ID to have some trust level that I know more about you, right? If I know who you are, I can find out what cars you own. If I was an insurance agent or whatever, company or whatever, right? Banks are the same way. And so a customer, so sometimes you end up with an issue that you may think you know somebody, but you actually don't know the individual that's interacting with you, right? So I know this is Daphne, Smith, and because we ship goods and they got a credit card. But that doesn't mean that every interaction with me is actually with that person. Their entire family, my spouse and I use the same Amazon account. Now, they probably can guess by our shopping habits who we are or by our device IDs, but the reality is they don't know whether I'm me or my wife, right? They can probably tease in on it, but from a legal point of view, they don't know. All right, and then what's a lead? A lead, is a kind of a contact also, and a lot of times these are marketing related. We got a mailing list. We got a bunch of people went to a trade show. A bunch of people sent in questions, and they asked for more information. So, what's the big thing about these? We have limited confidence that we know who they actually are, right? It might be high, it might be low, but it's definitely not as high as a customer. And we will have some limited set of attributes. And the more attributes we have about a lead, in some cases, the less likely they are to be accurate, right? And sometimes it's enough to make us have a higher level of confidence that we know who they are. So in a lot of cases, you'll end up with orders of magnitude more leads than you end up with customers, because you end up buying the same person from different places, or you get click-through traffic, or you get, trade show, or you get some other thing, right? So you have a pool of customers that you have some confidence you understand who they are. And then you've got this pool of leads that's significantly larger that we have a much lower level of confidence, or that varies also, right? So what is identity confidence, right? I'm going to say here, I had somebody the other day and they're like, well, the person logged in, so we know who they are. Well, that depends on the system you're in. So you may have a high level of confidence that you know who this person is in your system because they logged in. All that means is it's the same person every time. Well, you're hoping it's the same person unless it's a shared account. So the fact that I think two actions have occurred in my system by the same person is not the same thing as me knowing who they are in a global sense. And so you have to decide which one's good enough, right? Like, is it good enough to do this, my Xbox thing, right? Like maybe I gave them a prepaid card and I created a new ID, and I'm just picking them. I'm not knocking them in any way. And so all my all my actions inside the gaming system have that ID, and anybody else who wants to message me has a high confidence that I am the same person they messaged the last time we were in there, right? But that doesn't mean they necessarily know who I am across the planet, right? And you can see that from a lot of places. There's all kinds of social media where a high percentage of the accounts are actually not a real person. They're the same not person every time they post something, but they're not, we don't really know who they are, right? And so the other thing I was going to say is identity confidence does not guarantee deep knowledge. We might be pretty confident we know who somebody is. They did an electronic donation. They have a name and an email address and a credit card number. And we probably can back into their street address or something else. Or, you know, they gave us some kind of money that they didn't give us an identity. And so we had very few transactions with this person, but we're confident that they are the same person every time that's given us money. At the same time, I could have a prospect that comes in and does a whole range of transaction shopping with me before they bail out, right? So I could have a customer that only ever bought one thing, and they bought that thing immediately and they left. And then I could have a prospect who shops a bunch and creates a cart and does all kinds of other stuff. And I may know a lot about them and what they are interested in based on that, but I don't really know who they are, right? They might have even purchased as a guest on my system. So they're not registered. They're semi-anonymous, except for the fact I needed a shipping and a billing address. But, you know, I know all this other stuff about them now. So I'm sure I can come up with some other examples. So the key two things here, right? In-system identity confidence is not the same as global identity confidence. And identity confidence and the amount you know about somebody are not necessarily the same thing, especially if you only source data from inside your system. If you buy data, it's a little different, right? So in the ideal world, when somebody comes to a site or you deal with them, we know who they are, right? They log in, they give us some token of identity. And so we're 100% confident we know who that person is. And as they move, you know, the reason this one's grayed out here on the left is that they came in as somebody unknown, and then when they logged in, we now have confidence that we know who they are. And in an ideal world, if we had other systems that we were partnered or linked with this, right, when they log in, every time they come back, we're going to know who they are because we're going to use the same login. And so we end up building more information about them. The little boxes in the bottom are more information that we gathered about them. And that worked pretty well. But sometimes we end up with some situations where we have multiple systems of record with their own IDs. We bought a company. We haven't unified the accounts. We're pretty sure it's the same person because it's got the same address and the same name. Although, to be honest, that isn't enough because you got a lot of times you'll have a junior and a senior or a second and a third or twins with the same first name, right? And you'll just end up with weird stuff. So sometimes you'll end up with multiple systems of records, which means you have multiple versions of that person. And then you got to figure out some way to reconcile this. And you're 100% confident in each system, you know who they are. But the question is, how confident are you when you match those two systems up? So the other one is cases where we don't know who they are. A lot of the traffic coming to a site or coming to a company, into a call center, anywhere, is anonymous traffic, semi-anonymous. Maybe people wish it was anonymous. They didn't turn off their tracking cookies, right? So if the person comes in through our system, we're 100% confident that they are related to the same person that they were the last time they came in. Although, as in the case of my spouse and I, that is not true because we share accounts on e-commerce sites. And so then we have another set over here where we got marketing transactions. People came in, they didn't re-log in. We have some idea who they are, maybe from where they came from or trackers. But in a lot of cases, maybe they'll give us some data and we'll have some information about them. And so in this case, we have little bits of information about them. And we've got two people in our marketing system. One that we are 60% confident we know if that person came back that we might know who they are. And the other one, we're only 30%. They poked around. They cleared their cookies. I'm going to use websites because it's the easiest. They came, they cleared their cookies. They poked around a little bit and they left. Right? And then they browsed anonymously. Like in whatever that Chrome mode is, right? Incognito mode, if it still exists. So those are the things, right? So we don't always know who they are, but when we're doing stuff, we might decide that we have a legal version of this, and then we might decide that we have a marketing version of that level of trust. So the thing, and a lot of times you don't think about this, you think of these as different systems, but if you're building a customer 360 system, right, where you're trying to catch, then you got to realize you have these different kinds of people. You've got customers, contacts, and prospects. And what you got to do is you got to think about what are the implications of the varying levels of confidence in these and where can we use that data? And that's all I got time for. I hope that was interesting or useful, even better. Have a great day.